Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to whomever you are and wherever you are in the world. Welcome to the Hitt Inn, your croquet local, serving a full selection of croquet-related chit-chat by me, your landlady with a glass of red, half full. I'm Alison Maugham, on a mission to sneak behind the scenes of croquet and find out what life is really about on and off the lawns. A quick disclaimer to you all, this may be recorded in one session and may not have been edited, so definitely not one for children. Swearing and strong opinions will no doubt feature somewhere along the way of this podcast journey, but hopefully the useful and interesting bits will make up for it. Let's open up, get started, and see what's on the specials board today. And welcome back to the Hitt Inn, everybody. And today I have the fabulous Tobi Savage. Thank you for joining me. How are you?
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me. I'm very well. How are you?
I'm all right. I'd be better if I had wine, but today
Yeah.
it's too early. It's too early. So we're on a tea day today, but that's okay. Now, for anybody listening, the plan today is it's all about GC. All about the golf croquet today, hence why we have Toby with us, who is golf croquet player, fabulous extraordinaire.
Well, thank you.
And the topics we are hoping to cover will be entering your first tournament, developing your game, the fixtures calendar, navigating, understanding, etc. Becoming an England player, because we all want to know how to do that, and the jump shot. Everybody wants to talk about the jump shot.
Fabled jump shot.
Right. The jump shot. So we'll leave that till last, though. That's a fun one. Cool. So let's get started. Let's talk about. Oh, hang on a minute. Let's talk about you. First of all, who is Tobi Savage?
Well, yeah, Tobi Savage is a croquet player based in Margate. My local club being Ramsgate, so about kind of 15 minutes away, which is quite handy. I was born and bred in this area of the country, so I've always lived here. Ramsgate's always been my local club. I've joined others, but Ramsgate is the closest to me, so it's where I'll go and play, where I'll go and practice. Currently work as a train driver, which is a fantastic career, really enjoying it. It's quite difficult as a to kind of get into to start to get going, and it was reasonably restrictive for playing croquet when I first started driving trains. So it was quite challenging to play and learn to drive trains at the same time. But fortunately, once you get into it, you get established, you get your license. When you go out into the main roster, the opportunity it gives you for playing practice is really quite good. So the time off that I get to spend a lot of time with my family. I get to spend a lot of time down the lawns now. So yeah, I'm really enjoying my time as a train driver. And then yeah, as you said, England representative, which I'm also enjoying as well. So that's me.
Well, thank you. I also think it's I know how you started playing. I know how you got introduced. Although I think you were a ball boy. Was that?
That is correct. Yeah. So I was a member of the scout group local to Ramsgate Croquet Club, and the club approached the scout group to say, "Oh, can we have some volunteers to ball boy this international event that we were hosting?" Ramsgate was quite fortunate at the time to be one of the few clubs that could actually boast proper sponsorship. We had a local member who was, very generous and aided Ramsgate in hosting a proper international event. And we had Egyptians and Reg Bamford played, who is also reasonably good if you've heard of Reg. Came along and played in, I think it was for that particular one that I ball boyed was the 2003 international. And then the junior liaison at the time kind of spoke to the ball boys and said, "Oh, this is what we're all about. Does anyone want to give it a go?" And yeah, rest is history.
Wow. I mean, that's a great initiative. isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, maybe there's some clubs out there or people in clubs to think about ways of introducing juniors to the sport. That's got to be something that you could potentially think about doing. So I think it's a great initiative, a great idea. I have to say though, as a 12-year-old, if I think back to my 12-year-old self, I'm not actually sure I'd like to be standing behind a shot. But one of the world-class GC players. I mean, they go quite fast.
Yeah, they don't mess about. One of the Egyptians that we had participating was Khalid Yunus, who, yeah, he can really welly it. So we were told on no uncertain terms, if somebody looks like they're aiming in a given direction, make sure you're well clear of it. So you've got the etiquette side of things to not get on anybody's line of sight anyway.
Okay.
But yeah, they were quite careful in instructing us. If somebody's
Okay.
aiming a ball, stand clear.
So there's a bit of health and safety involved.
A bit, yeah.
Okay, I'm glad. Right, so let's carry on then. Let's talk about getting into your first competitive play, so your first tournament. So entering your first tournament. Initially, this could be a club tournament. It's quite often the first tournament that I think players enter. Maybe you've joined a club, you've been through your beginners training, maybe you have played in a league with your club as a sort of part of a team, and then you're maybe improving, starting to think about playing competitively. What do you do? Where, is your local club tournament a good one to start with, or perhaps a club tournament nearby where if you're not, if it all goes peak tong, no one's watching, so you can just run back home again. That would be my thought anyway. What would you go for?
So for me, when I first started as a junior, there were some specific junior activities that were arranged. So I guess notwithstanding those, I think my first competition, as you said, was an internal club competition, which I think personally was a great place to start. It can perhaps be a little bit intimidating to kind of, if you are used to coaching sessions, just friendly club days, having a bit of a relaxed atmosphere to them. If you suddenly think, oh, I wouldn't mind competing and seeing what it's all about, it can be kind of, for some people, it might be a bit daunting to go to another club, meet some people that, they've never met before, try and embark upon this, whole new thing. But fortunately for me, at Ramsgate, they have quite a healthy array of internal club competitions. So, the people that I've met and, I've been playing with for the last however many years, months or whatever it is that I first started, these were the people that I was then playing the friendly games with. And then somebody said, oh, why don't you fancy, having a crack at one of the competitions? So it was the same, for me, it was the same club atmosphere. It was the same, the same routines and, turning up and going to the same club that I was used to, meeting the same faces. But then that competitive side of things at the club kind of, bore out on the day. And I actually really enjoyed my first tournament, and I think it was a really, really good experience. And I would say if you're perhaps feeling a little bit apprehensive about what it might feel to kind of transition between just friendly club day games to an actual competition, I'd say give it a go. I had a great time.
I mean, I think there's definitely something in that, going to a tournament where your friends are as well, is a great introduction into competitive croquet.
Yeah.
You can travel together, you can have a chat in the car together, have lunch together. It's just somebody who you're going to have some sort of affiliation with, and you can relax with, because competitive croquet can be quite tense.
Yeah,
and I
think
think
so.
that it helps to have somebody around that that you can have a little relaxation time with.
Yeah.
Just break out. Interestingly, how going from a friendly, hey, how you doing,
Mhm.
let's have a knock around, into that club member is now your oppo and you want to beat them because this is going on your handicap card or as part of the rankings if you're that far advanced. How do you make the transition between friendly to war?
I think that is purely determined on the individual. So I think there are some people that will, perhaps there's a select few people that just simply aren't interested in competition, and that's fine. If the game's all about, anyone can do anything they want in it, so that's great. There are some people that will enter competitive tournaments to see what it's all about. They don't really have the thirst or the hunger to go and win. They're not interested in the competition. They just want another opportunity to see a few of their mates, and that's fine. But and then I think there are three main categories. There's that one where they're not fussed about the competition. They just want to have a good time. There are people that will turn up and be like, oh yeah, no, I'm not really interested in the competition, but secretly they are.
Yeah.
And then the third people that turn up and they're like, right, okay, we have gone from a friendly to a club competition, and I am now going to compete. And
And
I
I
think
think
I am in that latter
you can
category
see the difference in those people as well, can't you? When
for
you
sure.
turn up and they walk down towards you and you can just see it in their eyes. You think, ah,
Yeah,
you mean business today.
yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Definitely. And so talking of entering your first tour or entering any tournament, in fact, can you give us an idea of maybe what your preparation might be? So obviously have some water, maybe have a banana ready, make sure you've got, if you're like me, I have to do things a certain way every time because I'm routine-y and a little bit quirky. But
Yeah.
if you know that about yourself and you that's how you like to be, then make sure that's how you arrange it. But there might be other things that you might recommend people do before a tournament. I don't know whether that's could be meditation. What do you do to prepare?
Um, I like to try and kind of give myself a rough idea of what I might be up against. So if there is a list of participants, so if it's something like a published ranking tournament that I might face now, I can have a look and see who's made themselves available, who who's likely to get selected, who's likely to make the field, and then obviously when they do announce that, you can then have a quick look through and kind of think, right, I'm up against this guy, this guy, this guy,
So it's a
sort of
bit of
thing.
competitor stalking.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. And you might be able to have a flick through it might be a positive thing. It might not be for different people to have a flick through their record and think, oh, I've got, a good record against this guy. So if I draw him in my block or I've got a good record against this person, or maybe I've played her before and I struggle. So you might think, what can I do differently about, how I will, go into the match? What hasn't worked for me previously? What can I do differently? You know, I think it's fair to say that there's no harm in trying to work out who you might be facing and perhaps tailor your game plan accordingly, because no two competitors are really ever going to be alike. So I think it makes sense to kind of gear up differently per match, if you like.
So do a bit of research on your opponent. That's sort of a good game plan as a bit
Yeah,
of
try and identify
preparation.
their strengths and weaknesses, that sort of thing. Yeah.
And what about physical preparation for yourself? I mean, do you do star jumps on the side of the lawn or something? Do you do any kind of physical and mental preparation before a game even?
The most strenuous physical activity I do is walk from the clubhouse to the lawn side. Um, I'm not a very, I can't be doing any of this cardiovascular activity.
No press ups, press
It's just
ups.
not me, no. No, I probably put myself squarely in the category where if I did a Mulliner and did a press up mid lawn, I'd struggle to get back up again. Although there is an interesting picture in the Times, I suppose, which is me, assuming the position, I suppose, crouched down, which is I managed to get up from that, so that's an achievement.
Oh,
But
I'll have
yeah,
to dig
it's
that one
certainly
out and have
no,
a look.
yeah. So yeah,
Well,
certainly no physical prep for me. But something that I discovered fairly early on, fortunately, was that I don't think I play very well uh, caffeinated. So I actually really enjoy coffee. and I will have it as part of a morning routine. So with breakfast, I'll wake up and, if it's a domestic competition here, I'll make coffee at home. But to a championship that I played in quite recently in Southwick, I stayed with a few other players as well. And I took all this coffee regalia and made it all up in the morning. And, everyone's like just waking up and they're just making coffee in the kitchen, having a great time. So I'll do it in the morning, but at the club, I will not drink caffeinated drinks before a match.
Interesting. I mean, I guess that's knowing about yourself. You're learning about yourself. And once you've learned those kind of things, that can help you improve.
Definitely, I think, yeah.
Okay, so let's move on to our next topic, which is developing your game. So we've talked about entering a tournament, maybe a club tournament, and then you might go into an open tournament at a nearby club. Then you might go into, the next step up, whatever that might be for you. And you are trying to get better and you are trying to develop your game. Go on, to get better, best place to start.
Well, for me, my progression was fairly rapid. I don't know whether I am an exception or the norm, but I progressed purely by playing. So I started off, as I said, in the junior section, did a few, we'd turn up and have regular junior sessions, coaching sessions, friendlies against the other juniors. And then occasionally we'd have like tournaments put on. And then once I'd moved on to, the full membership, the adult membership, if you like, I then started to get involved with the adult club days and then played some of the proper club competitions. That's where I started out. And from there, I very swiftly moved on to league teams. So, as you said, another good opportunity to, go away and play at another club, but with people that, like you said, you make the drive up, we all have lunch together. I think league competitions are absolutely cracking. So I progressed very quickly from club day play to club day competition to club leagues. The captain of my inter-counties team was a member of my club, so he'd already seen me anyway and said, well, I'll have you for Kent. Join the inter-counties team. So all within, I started really properly playing, like competing in, I think it was 2010. I played my first actual like club ranking fixture. I think I played a few like inter club things prior to that. But my first actual competitive fixture was in 2010, which was the Ramsgate Open, which was their more, their championship level. It's a national CA fixture. So that was quite a big event in itself. And then that year I qualified for the All England area and national final. So yeah, I almost kind of got chucked in at the deep end. And then progressed a little bit further from there. And then when I did the All England again in 2012, the next thing I played in was a World Championships in Egypt. So
Wow.
yeah, it was kind of a rapid learning curve for me.
You did actually win that All England, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Yeah. Both of them actually in 2010 and in 2012.
That is correct. Yeah. Thanks.
Which means in my head you're a bandit twice over.
No, well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Bandit is the wrong word. Lots of people don't like me using it, but I can't resist because I was a bandit as well. But let's call them fast improvers.
The rapid improver is that's the one I'll go by.
Rapid improver.
That's the one I'll put on the back of my shirt.
Well done for those wins early on.
Yeah, cheers. Yeah, thanks.
So from what I'm hearing, I think developing your game, let's face it, a lot of it is playing people that are also really good or better than you.
Yeah. That was my primary source of development early on for sure.
Yeah, I think it gives you a fight, doesn't it? It gives you a good fight to go up against. And obviously, while you're on the lawn, you're watching what they're doing, you're learning at every step.
Yeah.
And I guess you're still on the lawn, you're still practicing, well, not practicing, but you're playing. So you're still learning for yourself at the same time.
Yep.
How else have you done courses? Did you ever do, because we've got 3 main academies. The third one's only recently come out. This is in the Croquet Association. I mean, but the CA has now got 3 main academies with lots of courses available for all sorts of different aspects of the game and improving your game. Have you ever been on any courses of any description?
I have not. No, the only course that I would probably at this stage of my career would be an AC course if I was to consider any. But yeah, during my development as a GC player, I didn't actually attend anything in the way of, we've got other stuff like the coaching pods and the international performance development. They're 2 very good initiatives as well.
Yeah.
The international performance development squads were actually a bit after, they just after my time. So just as I was kind of getting into that, the peak of my development, that's when they started to come to fruition, those sorts of things. So I wouldn't say that I missed out on the opportunity, but they just kind of weren't there when I was
The timing
when I
wasn't
was
right.
developing. No, that's right. Yeah.
Okay. So of course there is the development, the pods, which tend to be the coaching pods, which are sort of based around, or development pods, which are based around the country in different locations. And I think they're normally run by a sort of a leader. But the structure of that pod is I think predetermined. And for anyone that is listening, if you're in the UK and are looking to start developing in your local area, this is actually a good way to start, because quite often they're not, I don't think you pay for the pods.
No.
They're not very long, they're only an hour or 2 long, and you might have to travel a bit, but it is actually a good introduction to the courses, because the courses could be a day or 2, which involves travel, it involves accommodation perhaps, and meals, so it can be expensive. But the pods are sort of an introduction into coaching. So I'm glad you mentioned those. I hadn't thought about those. So okay, so let's move on to the fixtures calendar. So we've talked about, your first tournament, which might be local. We've talked about developing the game, and as you get better, obviously you're going to want to enter more advanced tournaments. Now, Golf Croquet in the UK has what I think is an excellent progression of tournaments. There's different levels. Is it classes or levels? I can't remember now. You have B level, A level. Is it level or class?
I would. I'm not entirely sure myself, to be honest.
I honestly can't remember. But I know
class is reasonable. I think class sounds more like a professional sports term than an A level sounds like an exam, like a school exam. So we'll go with class.
So I'm glad that no one can see at the moment, because I'm quickly Googling to see what I can find here. Essentially, though, what you have is these different series that run throughout the tournament season.
Yeah.
And so within each series, let's say it's the B series or the A series, or the championship series, there are events around the country in different locations. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you enter these series events and then you gain a place in is it in a leaderboard?
And that one, that there's like I think it's the C class is like a points based system. So however well you do at any of the C level events across the country, they'll contribute to your overall standing in the kind of grand tally at the end. But at the upper end, so I think definitely in championship class, but possibly in A as well, there is a national final. So you will compete in, local events of that class. So for championship level, say, because that's the one that I'm most familiar with, like Ramsgate will have a championship. Other clubs, so Surbiton have an Open, which is a championship fixture. And then, you can work your way around the country playing in as many of those as you feel necessary. And they will gain you qualification for the English National Singles Championship, which is kind of like the culmination of the championship circuit for the year.
Right. Okay. So I've just looked. It's level: C level, B level, A level, and so in when you're starting off, you're just coming into the tournament scene, you're starting with the C level, you can enter these open C level events around the country, which I think is a great thing, because you can then meet other players around, and I think then you get to see different standards from different areas of the country as well, which is also important. Then you can then progress through these levels. I'm pretty sure that the championship level is open though, isn't it? You can be any handicap and play.
That's right. Yeah.
Would you suggest a handicap, I don't really know what it is, but maybe a 1 or a 2 or something like that would play in an open championship? Is that fair?
A domestic open championship is certainly no reason why not. Yeah. One of our at Ramsgate, we've got somebody who is floating about the 0, the 1 mark. But he's a phenomenal player, and he enters the Ramsgate Open all the time. And he, well and truly deserves his place in amongst the, in the championship series. So yeah, by all means, 0s and 1s are, prime handicap territory for open championships, I think.
So I'm gonna sort of go out there and say I agree with people of handicaps always entering above their handicap. I think, why not, push yourself, because you are going to play against better players, which is what we were talking about earlier, but you're also pushing yourself and your own abilities all the time. And then so eventually you're working your way through the fixtures list, which can be found on the Croquet Association website. And you can highlight each series, I believe, on the fixtures list. So you can just highlight those events and see whereabouts they are in the country. Then you start thinking about the opens.
The opens, yeah.
You've got to start thinking about the opens. Now, I love the opens. And
I love the opens, yeah.
I can't not have a chat with you and not talk about the opens, because to me, it's just one of the best tournaments ever to attend. I love the social element there.
Yeah.
It's amazing. You've got people from all over the country. And when I was there, I don't play in the singles events, but I play in the doubles event, or have done a couple of times. Absolutely love it. And again, I'm not a particularly great golf croquet player, but I got to play against some of the best. And that in itself brings you on and is one of the most enjoyable tournaments and experiences at a tournament ever. The only odd thing for me is, because I'm predominantly an association croquet player, we often drink quite a lot of wine in our downtime. Whereas when I was at the Golf Croquet Open Championship, there was a lot of water or Lucozade or squash being drunk. It was very different until the evening, of course.
That's when we make up for it. Yeah.
But I would like to stress, I do think that at a golf croquet tournament, I'm not saying that association croquet is any less competitive or sports-like, but GC tournament, it is like, you're walking into a professional sports situation. Everybody is there, hydrated with their bananas and all the rest of it, and my word, is it serious. Cool.
Well, and that, unless you've seen some of the England contingent slathering on the sun cream, and then it kind of, that takes the edge off a little bit. But yeah, no, for the most part, it is. You are right. There is quite a lot of focus on I think nutrition in itself is actually a really interesting subject, and it's not just what people choose to drink. I think the eating that people do at lunchtime is completely different as well. Some of the select few association croquet tournaments that I've participated in and attended, um, you get these really like lavish lunches. But most of the golf croquet people will stick to like a salad or a sandwich, or there's not quite so much in the way of some of the spectacular feasts that clubs are capable of putting on. And it's a bizarre thing, really, that there's such a contrast between the
I
two.
I don't think it's that bizarre. I think actually, in golf croquet, it's exhausting. I'm not gonna
Yeah,
lie. A golf croquet tournament it's physically exhausting. You're out there all day, maybe in the sun, maybe in all sorts of weather, because that's where we are. You're on your feet all day. There's very little downtime. There's in my experience in tournaments, it's literally game after game after game, and a lot of the championships are best of 3 as well.
yeah,
So you're on the lawn for at least 2 hours, let's say. And
yeah,
you're not sat on the side waiting for your opponent to make a half an hour break like
for
you would
sure.
be
Yeah,
in association croquet. It's an energetic, responsive game. So I think that you have to have a different diet. You
yeah.
you can't have your roast beef and your Yorkshire pud and then get
As
up
lovely
and
as that sounds,
as lovely as it sounds, but it's
and then
very
get out there and
hard to
thrash it
have
out for
that.
2 hours. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and then go and play exactly constantly for 2 hours, and keep concentration. I mean, most of us just want to have a little snooze after lunch.
I
So
think that's interesting as well. The mental dynamic as well of golf croquet, that like you said, in association, you can watch somebody build a break for perhaps half an hour, and you've got that half an hour to be sitting out thinking, this is what I'm going to do with this. And then once you've built your grand strategy, you've then got one shot to go out there and implement it. Whereas when you're playing golf croquet, everything can change with one stroke happening, and then, oh wow, I didn't see that coming. I've now got to reformulate my entire plan. And you get that so often, and you've got to think on your feet for the entire game. And I think AC is an incredible contest of strategy, but the dynamic element of things changing every single shot in GC is it can be quite mentally tiring, I think. So yeah, I think you do need to properly prepare yourself, and yeah, it's something to take on board for sure.
I do agree. I completely agree. The dynamics of golf croquet compared to association croquet, that the mental dynamics are wildly different. And I'm not sure. I'm personally not very good at the golf croquet. I guess mentality where I've seen golf croquet players come back from 6-1, 6-2 down and win, not a problem, because they have this amazing mentality where, well, it was just a hoop, it's now in the past, I'm going to get onto the next hoop and win it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow, the more hoops I lose, the more down I get, and I get more and more cross and more frustrated. And I think this is why I have to be an AC player, because if I only make one hoop, well, that is just my own problem. But if I've got to watch somebody else make hoop after hoop after hoop, when I've probably screwed it up and let them do it in the first place, oh no, I can't. I cannot do it. But how do you come back, that mental energy to be able to very quickly put a bad shot or a bad series of shots behind you, because it is quick. It's not half an hour of somebody else doing a break and you have half an hour to have a cup of tea and relax.
Very good.
It's it is very much on the spot, on the lawn. It's your shot, get on with it and go.
I think, yeah, you've just got to learn to try to groove yourself and get into that I think if you're in a rough patch, I try not to dabble too much in things like statistics, and I think you can, I personally think you can do yourself some damage by, if you line up um something, say for instance your critical distance. If you've got quite an important shot and you think to yourself, oh, I'm 50-50 at this, if you've already hit one, you can then kind of talk yourself out of this shot mentally by just going, well, I hit the last one, so statistically I'm going to miss this.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Whereas, for me, I just think, right, this is what I've got to do in this moment, and I will play, the shot that's put in front of me. And all I've got to do, in my opinion, when I go to play any type of shot, all I've got to do is be 100% in that moment. And if I can hit that one, then that's fine. I will then move on to the next one when, that is presented to me in one shot's time after my oppo played. And I think that's what you have to do with every hoop as well. So if you get something like, say, 6-2 down, you just have to think, all I need to do is win the next 5 hoop contests, and you just treat every hoop in contention as its own individual contest. And when you win one, you just move on to the next one. You don't have to think to yourself, God, I got to win 5 of these in a row. You just have to think, all I've got to do is win the next one, win the next one. And, you treat every small step as it comes to you. And that, in my opinion, I think is how you can mentally persevere. And I think you've just got to kind of tell yourself, for me, I think I'm quite an optimist. So if I'm on a good patch, I'm like, oh, I'm enjoying this. I'm hitting quite a lot. But if I have like 2 or 3 shots that haven't really gone my way, I'm quite good at just kind of thinking, well, it'll pass. I know I'm good enough to be able to play XYZ shot, at some point. So if I play enough of them, they will come through. Whereas when I am on a good patch, I'm quite good at just saying, this is going well. Let's crack on. So I think that kind of helps as well. But everyone's wired differently, and they're all going to have their own mental approach to that kind of level of performance. And I guess maybe I'm just lucky that I'm perhaps a glass half full kind of guy.
I'm usually a glass half full kind of girl, but maybe not in the right way.
I was surprised, to be honest, when you said that, something like perhaps a 5 hoop deficit, you'd kind of view as an insurmountable lead. Because, say for instance, in something like AC, if you're 1-1 and your oppo is peg and peg, that's definitely not the end of the game. And stranger things have happened where you've, shaken hands at 1-1, and lo and behold, you find yourself, +2, chalking that one up on the scoreboard. So, all it takes is 2 good breaks. I'd argue. So yeah, to get yourself so tied down with, perhaps just being 5 hoops behind, I'd think, yeah, I if I was playing AC, I could come back from 24 here. So yeah, 5 hoops is nothing.
Well, maybe I'll have you in my head the next time I have to deal with that sort of thing. I'll think about it. Okay, so let's now move on. So we've been talking about the Opens and that high level tournament. Let's talk about being an England player. You are an England player. Your journey to get there has been great. I know that you have been the Open doubles champion.
I have. Yeah, that was good fun.
I'm pretty sure you've been at least runner-up in the Opens.
I have. Yep.
Correct. And you've played for the Openshaw Shield.
Correct. Yep.
Which is the England World Team Championship.
That's right. Yeah.
So what's it like? Just let's go from I like to talk about the difference between you're playing with JP, your doubles partner,
yeah,
in the Openshaw Shield, and the difference between playing with him and playing with him in the Opens, and then you're playing against him in a singles tournament. So you've been playing against him for, let's say, if you started in 2010, I'm not sure when he came on the scene, but let's say
2014, I think.
Okay, so you've been playing against this guy for 6 years, and he is a fierce competitor. And all of a sudden, you're in a team with him, and you want him to win all the time, as opposed to you don't really want him to win. How do you go through that change?
Um, yeah, that's an interesting one actually. I think for me, to be honest, as JP being case in point, more of what I have done has been either as a teammate or a doubles partner than as a competitor. So JP and I haven't actually had very many singles matches against one another. Um, any match that we have had, well, we both had a great time. We get on really well anyway. We're good friends, and it is just kind of, we both, we'd be lying if we said that we weren't good. We both know we're good players. It's going to be a great time. We'll just go out and have a crack. Um, and yeah, and I'm fortunate enough that we do. The worst thing you want to do is just go out and embarrass yourself. And if you play like an absolute donkey, you think, oh yeah, I really didn't fancy that. So that's the one thing to avoid. But if you go out there and you have a good time, um, I think the highlight for me, I suppose, in kind of singles matches against JP would be, in fact, him and I were just chatting about this fixture the other day, the 2017 British Opens. We drew one another in the knockout. And it was an absolutely phenomenal match. The conditions were really good at Surbiton that year as well. But we had a really, really good time. We both were fiercely competitive. Um, and yeah, it is an interesting dynamic to move from that whole, right, this guy is a good friend of mine. We play doubles together. We've won this, that, and the other. Now I've got to go out there and beat him. And you do have to kind of, you've got to tell yourself, right, this is a different kettle of fish here. And we'll have passing comments, and things will be said. We'll have a chuckle about things, and there was a point in the match where we kind of something happened, and we just kind of had to go and take five, have a drink of water, have a kind of settle down a little bit. So you just, yeah, more or less what I said earlier. You just take everything a step at a time as it comes, and yeah, just take everything at face value, what you've got to deal with in front of you at the time. So yeah, this guy goes from a good partner and a good friend of mine to he's a competitor here, so I've just got to go and just take him out.
Just And so just quickly, where was the Open Shore that you played in? Which country was it? Here?
That was New Zealand, 2020.
New Zealand. So I just quite like to talk about the difference between playing here, and the conditions in New Zealand. So the conditions on the lawn, or the conditions of the environment, the weather. You've got to make allowances maybe in your play for the different, basically for all of the differences.
Yeah, it's a whole new environment, I think.
How do you even prepare for that?
It's when you get there, when you arrive at the club, it's a wonderful feeling, especially if you all arrive in convoy. There is a real team atmosphere to something like the World Team Championships. You've got all the different parties turning up and arriving, and everybody intermingling and meeting up, and you can look around and like everyone is a class performer. They've all had to work really hard to get where they are, and that kind of in itself gives you a sense of pride. Pulling on an England shirt is fantastic in itself, but to be surrounded by so much talent, you do just kind of you think, well, I've done well enough in myself to to get here and to have earned a place on the team, but everyone else has gone through the same battle to get where they are, to get as good as they are. And yeah, when you surround yourself with that much positivity, it's a tremendous feeling, I think. But yeah,
what about the pressure? Do you not feel the pressure? I don't think I could. I just couldn't cope. I couldn't cope with. I just couldn't.
I think pressure is what you make of it. It's. I was told by Reg that pressure is something that you choose to feel, and I think he's entirely right. It's quite subjective as to whether or not that's something, a viewpoint that you can take as an individual. But I think there's a bit of pressure there, But if you choose to succumb to it, you choose to experience it, you choose to feel that, that is something that you can just kind of think, well, yeah, I'm not really interested in that. I'll just shelve that. I'll just concentrate on the what's going on
That's
the board.
advice. That is good advice for any croquet player at any level.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, definitely.
I think, I remember being, very high handicap, just starting out, and I knew what I was supposed to be doing. I knew how to do it. I knew how to get there. But I did put myself under huge amounts of pressure because I just thought I should be really good at this. I should be getting this. I should be beating these people. And I didn't. And I think it was because I put myself under so much pressure. Maybe if somebody had said to me at the time, pressure is there when you want it to be. Maybe I would have gone, okay, well, actually, I'm just going to go out there, do the best that I can. And actually, maybe then I would have done the best that I could, and I potentially would have won.
Yeah, I think it's sound advice. And, all those statements that you made, I should be going out and winning this. I should be, I should be. If you just turn them into, I ams. So, you've earned your place. You've done well enough to get selected or to get nominated or to qualify for a tournament. I am good enough to play here. I am good enough to compete on this field. I am good enough to go out and challenge these people and even beat them. That is, I think, something that you need to just try and instill in yourself. I've earned my place here. I'm good enough to do this. Let's go.
I need you in my head.
Oh, man. Yeah,
I think we all do. Okay, look, let's move on. So we're going to come to our final little topic, which I love. The jump shot. So first of all, the jump shot is, if anybody doesn't really know what the jump shot is, you're hitting a ball, you're hitting sort of down on the ball, and you literally make that ball jump over a ball or a something in front to maybe...
Could be anything, yeah.
Could be anything. Now, first of all, can you... I know this is going to be difficult because we don't have any visual aids with the podcast, but can you describe, I guess, as simply as possible, how would you recommend somebody plays a simple jump shot?
So I think a lot of people will be surprised, when you think about playing these, jump shots and what I've got to do to make this ball hop up in the air and the energy that I've got to, I've got to really hit it hard. And it's not about that at all. It's all about technique. And a lot of people, when I do jump shot coaching, are surprised to learn that just their usual hoop technique, it doesn't matter whether they are quite a hard hitter or whether they are, reasonably, controlled, or they just can't hit it as hard as some other people. For most people, just their usual hoop stroke technique is enough to generate enough power with the right striking technique to make a ball jump, a reasonable distance. You can get, a good 3-yard jump shot, which is all you really need to, as a fundamental, this is the one that I want. You want to be able to jump things from about kind of 3 yards. Anything over and above that, you're going to have to start working on some different techniques, or, you're going to have to start evaluating where maybe I might have to incorporate where I'm going to have a bounce and stuff like that. But for the most part, just for a straightforward basic jump shot, anything up to about 3 yards is doable just with your usual hoop stroke technique. You just need to alter where you stand, so your stance will change a little bit. Your hand position might just go down the mallet a little bit further. And the way that I personally try to think about striking the ball is that if you envision the ground as a mirror, what you need to do is you need to hit the ball into that mirror, and then it's going to kind of reflect out in the same direction in which you hit. So if you try to just strike the ball with the center of the mallet through the middle of the ball, some people, they accidentally sort of think, oh, I need to try to kind of whip this, or, I've got to do like a funny little, you don't have to do any of that. Just concentrate on the mallet head driving through the very core of the ball. You might need to kind of, take a few minutes to have a go on the sidelines just to make sure you're not going through the middle and then down into the ground. So avoiding making contact with the ground is the key. But
Yeah, I
do
don't
make
want lots of
sure
complaints from the grounds guys out there
all of
saying,
a
"Oh,
sudden
that
there's loads of
Alison and
people.
her flipping podcasts."
Oh, well,
Uh,
yeah. But yeah, but you'll be surprised, how much you can actually drive the center of the mallet head through to the center, the core of the ball, and actually not even come close to the ground. So just spend a few minutes just making sure that you're not going to hit the ground. But then concentrate on that kind of reflective. Yeah, I would view the ground as a mirror. I want the ball to come up at X angle, so the mallet is going to be struck on kind of the other side of it. And then you just play your usual hoop stroke. Just put your feet forward, maybe depending on how far away you are. So just for a couple of feet, you might just want to shuffle your feet forward like a few inches. But for, maybe say up to about 3 yards, you might want to take like, half a meter or so maybe, and then just shuffle your hands down your mallet, play your usual hoop stroke technique, but just at an angle where you want the ball to reflect off of that mirror. And you'd be surprised just to how
so
many
are
times they just
we
pop
going
over
to
the
call
top.
this the Savage mirror effect?
Uh,
Savage mirror, a Savage mirror jump.
oh well, yeah, that
It's a
sounds
new
good. Yeah,
term.
we'll appeal to the CA for
The Savage mirror jump. I love it. I
it.
love it. So we should, now we've talked about the jump shot, we should talk about the jump shot. The jump shot, which if
The
anybody
jump
hasn't
shot.
seen, Google, go
Oh,
and find, or YouTube, which I think was in 2015.
that's right. Yeah,
And I think it went over the peg
that's right.
to score hoop 12.
That's right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you,
Yeah, I
I
was
mean, did
quite
you
pleased with
walk
that.
up to that shot thinking, oh, do you know what? I'm just going to win this. This is easy. I'll just jump over. I'll hop over this, score the hoop, and I'm going to win. Is that literally how it went down? Or did you?
The same thought process I discussed earlier. It doesn't matter how difficult this shot is. All I've got to do is be 100% once. And I
And you
was.
were.
Yeah.
That was quite an achievement.
A lot goes through your mind at the time as well. A lot of what I'll do is all, before I even pick up my mallet to play the shot. But you kind of think to yourself, what can I do? What are my options here? Because, you might think to yourself, oh, well, I'll just go for conventional clearance or, whatever it is that you're thinking about doing. Or, sometimes you might think, well, I'm not really interested in 12. This is going to be so difficult for me to score. I'll just concede this point and maybe just play to halfway, give myself an advantage at 13.
And that wasn't an option on that
And
day?
that was, I didn't fancy any of that. But once I've made my mind up, that's my shot. I was like, right, okay, go at it with 100%, no regrets. Don't ever think to yourself, have it ticking in the back of your mind, oh, but what if I do this? What if I do that? Pick your shot, make your mind up before you address the ball. And then when you're convinced this is the shot for me, go at it with conviction. And you'd be surprised with the results, maybe.
Wow. Well, Toby, thank you so much for chatting to me today. I am so grateful, and I'm sure lots and lots of people are going to be so grateful for this as well. And maybe you'll come back and we can talk more about technique, or more about nutrition, or more about all the other things. But I was already told last time that an hour was probably too long, so I'm going to stick with the hour, and we'll come back another time maybe.
Superb. Yeah. Thank you very much for having me. It's been a pleasure. I've really enjoyed myself. And once again, thank you for all the work that you're putting in with this initiative. It's a great idea, I think. And hopefully the people that will enjoy this will be very grateful to you. Thank you very much for your help and
You're
your work.
welcome. Thanks, Toby.
Thanks for having
See
me.
you soon.
Bye-bye.
That's the end of our podcast today. Thank you so much to Toby for joining me for a chat. And thank you all of you for listening in. Take care.